Hello again. Well, the race for the Republican nomination this year has turned out to be much more exciting than I think most people expected. This is the first time that I'm aware of since we started the modern primary system in which the first three contests have produced three different winners. Obviously, Santorum prevailed in the Iowa caucuses, Romney won New Hampshire, and Gingrich won South Carolina. So uh, the race now seems to be basically between Mitt Romney and Newt Gingrich because uh, Rick Santorum, although he placed first in Iowa, didn't really have an impressive showing in either New Hampshire or South Carolina, and Ron Paul has yet to take first in any of the contests and doesn't look like he's making a strong pitch in Florida. So it's basically a two-man race at this point. Now, I, for one, hope that this race continues for a while, if only because I want the candidates to actually come down here to Texas and have to campaign here. That was exciting last time around, and well, I don't know if it'll go on that long. Right now, the conventional wisdom is that Romney wins in Florida, then he'll pretty much be unstoppable. But who could have predicted Gingrich's last minute surge in South Carolina? Yeah, that's right. Anyway, um, I thought I'd do a quick video about the attacks leveled by Mitt against Newt and by Newt against Mitt, and discuss, which ones are fair, which ones are over the line or below the belt. Uh, Starting with the charges that Romney is leveling against Gingrich. Now, Romney, obviously, of late, he's been going after Newt's record as Speaker. And we know that, obviously, when Gingrich was Speaker, he made a lot of enemies. He gained a lot of respect from a lot of different people, but he also rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, ruffled his share of feathers. And one or two things that they keep bringing up are that he was fined $300,000 for ethics violations and he resigned in disgrace. Now, people have been taking issue with that. People in the Gingrich camp that saying that he resigned in disgrace. You know what? Let me let Charles Krauthammer discuss that.
Well, Newt Gingrich resigned at the end of the '98 elections because of the defeat the Republicans had suffered and the fact that he lost the confidence of the Republicans in the House. The disgrace that Romney was talking about was what had happened 2 years earlier, when in January 1997, Gingrich was reprimanded by the House and had to pay a fine for some ethics violation. If he had resigned in disgrace, he would have resigned then. He did not. He was reelected House Speaker. He stayed on for the 2 years. What happened when he did resign is that his party, the members of his party in the House, had decided after the election results, where the Republicans had suffered a defeat, they lost 5 seats. The opposition always, almost always, historically gains seats in off-year elections. He lost the confidence of his conference, and they voted, well, they would have. They were prepared to vote him out. So 3 days after the election, he stepped down. But that's not disgrace, it's defeat.
Okay.
An analogy, let me just give you one analogy. Maggie Thatcher was similarly deposed by the members of her own Conservative Party, the members of the House of Commons, while she was Prime Minister. That was also losing the confidence of your own members. Again, it's defeat, but it's not disgrace.
Now, it's true. Newt Gingrich did not resign because of any ethics charges. He was not brought down by any accusations of corruption. He resigned because the Republicans lost 5 seats in the House of Representatives in the 1998 elections. Now, I personally feel that the resigned in disgrace description is accurate to the extent that it was a disgrace that the man credited with leading the Republican Revolution in 1994 and leading the Republicans to take back the House of Representatives for the first time in 40 years went from that magnificent resurgence of, you know, Republican conservative ideals in just 4 years to the Republican Party being the only opposition party, meaning the party not holding the White House, to lose seats in Congress in a midterm election in over 60 years. That much is disgraceful. So it's not quite like, he was run out of office. Well, he was run out of office, but not for any corruption allegations. Second point I want to make is that uh, these allegations of wrongdoing against Newt, it certainly is accurate, and it is, I think, a fair charge to say that he was the only speaker in history to be fined for ethics violations. But the reason that he was the only speaker to have that happen, to be convicted of ethics violations and sanctioned by the House, is not so much because he was any worse than previous speakers. It's because the speaker is elected by the party that has the majority in the House of Representatives, and historically speaking, members of the House don't mutiny their own leadership. Now, you could argue that, basically the way Republicans turned against Newt Gingrich in the 90s was kind of a mutiny, but he was not expelled or anything. I don't even think he was facing the threat of expulsion. He certainly didn't do anything, to my knowledge, that would have warranted expulsion. But certainly, look, Nancy Pelosi is horribly corrupt. And yet, the Democrats have never gone after her. Why? Because, again, she's the leader. And, same thing with so many previous speakers in history. They generally don't go after their own. And finally, just to put this whole aspect of the speakership in context, because Newt's record as speaker has provided much fodder for his critics. It's fair to say that on both the right and the left. So, to try and put that in context, I used one of my favorite tools as far as visual aids go, a Venn diagram. Okay, obviously these are not three perfect circles, but I went to a lot of trouble to write backwards on the board so that it would show up somewhat legibly on the webcam, because obviously it creates a mirror image. So here's the deal. As I see it, when you become Speaker of the House, you're going to end up being at least one of these three things, if you're not already. And that is feckless, corrupt, and/or heavy-handed. Now, I think it's safe to say that we could put Nancy Pelosi in this category, and I'm sorry to say that John Boehner probably belongs right here. I guess we could put Denny Hastert. Let's put him here. Now, if this was Tom DeLay, then it would be a different story, but obviously Tom DeLay never became Speaker. Now, in my personal opinion, Newt Gingrich belongs right here. And here's why I say that. I know a lot of people would think he belongs here. The fact is, of all the ethics charges lobbed against Newt, 80-something of them, there was only one that was not frivolous, one that actually stuck, one of which he was actually found guilty. And it was a really minor thing. That was allegedly misusing a course he taught for political reasons. I'm not even sure I understood it. And the reason he was basically forced out of the House in '98 had nothing to do with that. It was because the Republican Party lost seats in the 1998 midterms. And even though they retained their majority, it was a huge embarrassment for them because they thought, being the party that is not in control of the White House, they were due to gain seats, especially with the impeachment thing weighing Clinton down. But, well, I think this has served its purpose. That was not as interesting as it sounded when I was doing it, but no matter. Uh, so I do think a lot of Romney's criticism of Gingrich is fair. It just needs to be put in the proper context. Now, as for Gingrich's charges against Romney, they're a little bit more erratic and they seem to change, and he doesn't really have a constant meme going. Every time you think he's building a line, a charge that he intends to repeat, he changes it. He, for example, made a habit of calling Mitt Romney a Massachusetts moderate for a while, and then he kind of stopped doing that. There are legitimate gripes against Romney, but most of them are not what Newt has been going after Mitt Romney on. For example, I think a legitimate attack on Mitt Romney is that he has a propensity for saying things like this.
Isn't it a hard argument to make if you're saying, like, okay, he inherited this recession and he took a bunch of steps to try to turn the economy around, and now we're seeing some more jobs, but vote against him anyway? Isn't that a hard argument to make? Is that a stark enough contrast?
But if you got a better one, Laura, it just happens to be the truth.
What the hell? That just, oh, man. That is, I mean, that by itself is not so bad, but it's the way that comments like that are so ripe for distortion. Case in point, take a look at how Rachel Maddow, who obviously carries a lot of water for President Obama and the Democrats, distorted what Mitt Romney just said in that clip.
This is a ready-made campaign ad. Even Mitt Romney agrees that President Obama is turning the economy around and things are getting better. So vote for Mitt Romney despite that?
See, you'll notice, now listen carefully to what Mitt Romney actually said, or I guess Laura Ingraham said in the Mitt Romney,
Isn't it a hard argument to make if you're saying, like, okay, he inherited this recession and he took a bunch of steps to try to turn the economy around, and now we're seeing some more jobs, but vote against him anyway? Isn't that a hard argument to make? Is that a stark enough contrast?
But if you got a better one, Laura, it just happens to be the truth.
He inherited this recession and he took a bunch of steps to try to turn the economy around, and now we're seeing some more jobs. And Mitt Romney says it just happens to be the truth. Notice that at no point did Laura Ingraham, or Mitt Romney for that matter, say that the steps that Obama took were making the economy better. Yet Rachel Maddow took those comments and turned them into...
Even Mitt Romney agrees that President Obama is turning the economy around and things are getting better.
Yeah. Another thing I have a problem with Mitt Romney saying is this. This is him talking to Laura Ingraham about his father releasing 12 years worth of tax returns when he ran for president in 1968.
What he did in 1967 is very different than what's going to happen today. So, but I was aware of his experience. I remember reading it in Look magazine. We used to have Look magazine long ago, and the idea that I'm supposed to follow exactly what my dad did is not something that I find terribly compelling.
What the the hell was that? We want a president who's going to be a fighter. We want someone who's aggressive. We don't. He doesn't have to necessarily attack reporters like Gingrich has made a thing of doing. But I mean, to wax nostalgic about Look magazine, it's just not. It does not portray the image of a candidate with fire in the belly, someone who you really think can be a real powerhouse in the general election. Now, as far as the choice between Gingrich and Romney, Ann Coulter, I thought, has really made some good points about picking Mitt Romney over Newt Gingrich and why, really, given the choice between those two, voters should go with Mitt Romney.
The most important issue in this election isn't so much why I'm for Romney, and I think he is the most conservative candidate of the four who remain right now, and Gingrich the most liberal. It is how do we get the most votes? Because if we don't defeat Obama in 2012, Obamacare is here to stay. Newt Gingrich will call plans to reform
we, the
it.
Republicans, is that what you're
right-wing
talking
social engineering. I'm talking about the country because we will go the way of Western Europe. It will
I think you're
over.
wrong.
Okay, now there was something else Ann Coulter said in the interview that I wanted to share with y'all. Can we roll that?
After a few years as Speaker, not only did his whole party turn against him, saying you're roadkill, you're ruining the Republican Party, but the vast majority of Americans in polls said he was scary and extremist, out of touch.
We get
right
it.
now, his unfavorables. No, I don't like Obama, and this is going to be an historic landslide if Gingrich is the candidate.
Okay.
So now I've discussed what I believe are the fair attacks for Mitt Romney and Newt Gingrich to level against one another. I want to really briefly touch on what I think are unfair charges that the two are leveling against each other. Look, fellas, you gotta knock off the Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae stuff. We get it. Both of you own stock in Fannie Mae and or Freddie Mac. You didn't personally buy it, obviously. Gingrich owns stock through a mutual fund. Romney owns stock through a blind trust. Frankly, if anything, then it shows that both of y'all made bad investment decisions. But as far as Newt Gingrich getting paid $1.6 million from Freddie Mac, I think that more so than anything, that underscores the importance of understanding the distinction between being a lobbyist and being a consultant. One, you're actually going to members of Congress. You're getting paid to go to members of Congress and advocate for or against certain policies. And the latter is just more of an advisory role. And I think it's clear that that's what Gingrich was. He wasn't a lobbyist. He was more like a consultant. But it makes some voters out there uncomfortable that Gingrich took a lot of money from Freddie Mac. Then, I'm not going to try and persuade you otherwise. Now, I do think Newt Gingrich suggesting that Mitt Romney was anti-immigrant was way out of bounds. I think that to take a hard line against illegal immigration is not anti-immigrant, at least not to any reasonable-minded person. Now, I know there are a lot of unreasonable people out there who vote, but very few of them are Republicans. So, not a smart move in the Republican primary, and not a really good move, not fair game, in other words. Well, I've had a busy week, and it's going to be busy next week, so be sure and check out my blog, and if anyone wants to become a contributor to my blog, then just comment on an article, and I can tap you as a contributor, and then you can post whenever you want. So that's up there. And until next time, don't mess with the right-wing genius.